oldest city.
One of the most sacred sites for Hindus all over India. 8 things that people must know before they go to Varanasi, so that your trip can be just that much easier and simpler to navigate through if you plan a trip to Varanasi, which you should plan a trip to Varanasi. Varanasi is an explosion of people and tradition and culture and so much going on in the place, and you can easily become overwhelmed. So here are my top 8 things that I think everybody should know before making a trip to Varanasi, the most auspicious and traditional and religious part of India for Hindus. How to actually get there. So I opted to fly to Varanasi. So you can fly, you can use a train, you can even drive if you'd like. If you are on a time limit like I was, then my recommendation would be to fly in and fly out. This is the fastest possible way. I flew from New Delhi because I was there just before going to Varanasi and after Philippines. So I flew from New Delhi, and the flight is probably about an hour. There was a delay though, so I booked with an airline called Go First Airlines, and there was a flight delay. So don't expect to be on time, because I was also delayed when I flew out of Varanasi with the same airline, and there was about a 2-hour delay. Flights are pretty standard, stock standard prices, and you can just search for the most reasonable one, because there are a few airlines that offer trips into Varanasi. Finding a hotel in Varanasi. Now there's so many hotels to choose from. Now from what I picked up is that you could stay close to the Ghats or close to where the Ganges is. There's a lot of little guest houses and a lot of little like 3-star and 2-star and 1-star hotels. I, however, stayed at the Taj Hotel. The Taj ticked all those boxes for me. People were super friendly. The reception was just lovely. The room was amazing. The breakfasts were fantastic. So yeah, some travelers also prefer staying at backpacker lodges, which there are several of. And these are amongst the small little alleyways that take you down to the Ghats or into the river. So if you're feeling adventurous and if you'd like to stay at a backpackers, and you know, sometimes backpackers, you get to meet a whole lot of other people when you stay there, and you're not as much solitary as you are at a hotel, as an example. Visiting Varanasi during Shivaratri, there's tens of thousands of people. I would strongly recommend that you find a tour guide. So I managed to find a fantastic tour guide. His name is Vimal. Vimal even studied philosophy, so it wasn't just somebody who's able to get me around the city and to the Ghats and on the boat cruise as fast as he possibly could, but he came with a whole lot of knowledge and information about the city and about the history and the tradition and the culture, which I found fascinating. So this kind of information I probably would not have picked up had I just been traveling completely on my own without a tour guide. One of the most captivating experiences of my trip was actually taking the sunrise boat trip. So I woke up at about 5 a.m. in the morning. I wasn't certain whether I wanted to do the sunrise boat cruise at the Ghats initially, but once I was doing it, I have to say that this is a must-do if you are going to experience Varanasi for a short time or even a long time. Then do it several times, but it was an absolutely fantastic experience. the sun rising and the sun rays onto the river, and then hitting all of the temples and the many Hindu pilgrims that have come to bathe at the Ganges. It was quite an interesting experience and beautiful, to say the least.
It comes in front of us in three forms: creation, preservation and destruction to recreate. That's why energy had different form. All different form has different title, and those titles are worship as God and Goddess. That's why we believe we have so many goddesses, but basically we have one God, and that is also that because that is also mentioned in Vedas. Ekam Satya Vipra Bahuda Vadanti. Thank you very much.
You have to do the Aarti prayer. So there are these young priests that light Aartis and lamps, and they do the prayer and facilitate this prayer at the banks of the Ganges, at the bottom of the Ghats. So it starts at about, I'd say about 5:45 or 6 p.m. But you want to make your way there and try and get a spot early. I actually viewed the Aarti ceremony while sitting on a boat. So we were sitting on a boat, and as I say, there were tens of thousands of other people who watched the Aarti because it was the Shivaratri festival. So it was quite busy, but still I was able to get a bird's eye view of the Aarti. Quite an electric experience. Everybody was observing the prayer for about an hour, I would say. And after the Aarti, everybody then made their way back into the alleyways, and some continued to pray, and then others just went into all of the little stalls and the shops, and people were selling everything from food to clothing to little trinkets, and even selling bottled Ganges water in these little copper seals and cans. So much to see even after the Aarti. The city is being shared by not just, there's not just people there and cars, but there are lots of cows. I believe Vimal told me that probably more than 10,000 cows in the city. So lots of cows, goats, peacocks, monkeys as well, dogs and cats too in the mix. So be very careful as you step in the city. You don't want any of those accidents happening, but it seems that everybody sort of coexists very harmoniously in Varanasi. So you've got your people, you've got your traffic, you've got your monkeys, and then you've got cows, and everybody's just sort of carrying on and doing their best in the day. And amidst all of this, you've got the burning ghats, and you've got ceremonies taking place, a mixture of all of these different entities in the city. Now, my assumption is that they all are probably used to the water in India, and they're probably drinking tap water in India as well. If you're a tourist, if you're a foreigner like I am, and not used to the water in India, don't swim in the Ganges. So I've heard that people can get violently ill if they ingest the water, and even if they take a bath or a dip. So don't do it. You'll just put a dampener on your experience. Rather experience it, as I said in my other tip, on the boat, just sailing through the Ganges and getting the experience and just the sights and the sounds. You don't necessarily have to take a dip. You've got to go to SriNath, which I didn't know the Buddhist connection to Varanasi was so strong amongst the people there. There were so many people, as many people had come to see the Shivaratri prayer like the way I went. I noticed there were so many other people who actually went to where Lord Buddha had given his very first sermon, which is in Varanasi. There's a fantastic museum also there in SriNath, and if you go with a tour guide, they're going to be able to tell you about Buddhism and its origins and its lineage and its connection between Nepal, Kathmandu, and how Buddhism sort of spread from Varanasi. So this was fascinating for me. And also what was so fascinating was all of these ancient sculptures, some of which were destroyed as well under a certain rule, but then they tried to restore as best as they could. So there were so many locals, so many Indians, so many tourists, all converging at this museum, everybody fascinated by the sights. I really got such an educational experience, not only about Hinduism on the day, but also around Buddhism. I didn't make that connection when I had gotten there, but then I learned so much about it.
That this is the place where Buddha delivered his first sermon. There are 4 very important Buddhist places. Number 1 is Lumbini, which is the birthplace of Buddha. The second important place is the Bodh Gaya, the place where Buddha attained enlightenment. This is the third important place. This is the place where Buddha delivered his first sermon and also founded a Buddhist organization to promote the Buddhism. That's why this city is also known as the birthplace of Buddhism.
Go and see where they make these tapestries and these silks, these silk making facilities, or these places where everybody's weaving, and it's very interesting. They actually do it by hand. So I went to 2 of them, and this place is where the Banaras fabric or the Banaras sari has become famous. So Varanasi was called Banaras before the name became Varanasi, or it reverted back to being Varanasi. And this is where this fabric comes from. And these people are so talented. And as they weave and as they make these different fabrics and fill them in, you're just in absolute awe of how talented they are and how beautiful these fabrics actually look. In fact, it's a perfect souvenir to take back home. So you can buy a cloth, you can put it up on the wall, or maybe buy somebody a sari and take it back home with you. So those are my 8 tips for visiting Varanasi. I hope you enjoyed it, and 8 things to do, or 8 things I wish I knew before actually visiting Varanasi. I am going to visit Varanasi again. I made up my mind that a day was just too short a trip for me to experience everything that this magical city had to offer. So I will be visiting Varanasi again. And thank you so much for watching, everybody. And if you are going to Varanasi, have a fantastic, exhilarating journey.